Hey there everyone, it's Brandon Burns, your Head of Community here at Runway, and we're back for another episode of the Swerve Podcast and Vodcast. And with me in a new location today inside our TARDIS here at Runway is founder and owner and founder of Rosterfy, Shannan Gove. How are you?
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, do I get that title right? I know you're one of the founders, but what's your day-to-day role?
Look, yeah, that's fine with me. Whatever it is, that's okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
So we reconnected with Shannan about a week ago. He was a speaker on our Going Global panel workshop that we had. And it was perfect timing because I believe you've just returned from doing quite a bit of business overseas with Rosterfy.
Yeah, it's, I guess, really 5 pretty solid years and it's only going to get more solid. It's more that I've moved back with the family now to Geelong, which a lot of people are doing now, which is great. And so good to connect back in Geelong and see how we can, I guess, along our journey, there's probably been a bit we've learnt, so hopefully we can help out other startups that are going through their journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what this show is all about, because obviously we're coming to early stage startups and small business owners who are looking to take the plunge themselves. Mm-hmm. And yours is a really good case study because, you know, I'd probably say you're probably still in startup mode potentially, or scale up, maybe entering into scale up.
Yeah, who knows, whatever it is. It's it never gets any easier or any smaller. It's it's all part of the journey, and I'm sure we'll go through it.
Yeah.
What we're up to today, yeah.
So you're a Deakin alumni, is that right?
Yeah, Deakin Burwood up in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Geelong boy, but studied up in Melbourne, yeah.
What did you initially study at Deakin?
Sports management.
Okay, and so was this business Rosterfy born out of something that you experienced in that industry?
I guess the background is that went to Deakin Burwood to study sports. All I knew that I wanted was to work in sports and to travel. Mm-hmm. And I always thought I'd work for AFL International. Even we'll go to Africa and help grow the game of AFL over there. It was just kind of a big thought I had. But then the more I got into my studies, and that's when I realised there was a bit of a niche for a business that wasn't Rosterfy. It was actually Event Workforce. A way for motivated students that were studying sports like myself to get them into the industry and give them experience. And so that's when I called my cousin Bennett, who just finished studying the same course 2 years earlier, and checked what he was up to. And we started Event Workforce as an event staffing business while we're at university. And then eventually that flowed into Rosterfy as we needed a technology to manage our own workforce. Yeah.
Wow. So I guess maybe take this opportunity to explain an example client, and maybe give me one of your most amazing and high profile ones in maybe the States or overseas, and how they use Rosterfy and what's that problem that you're solving. Yeah,
it's we never started Rosterfy for it to be a business. We started Rosterfy because we, as a staffing business, had a problem managing all of our workforce in spreadsheets. And so we had that problem, we solved it with a technology solution, and then we realised, hey, this tech that we've built can really relate to everyone else in the event space, sports space, charity space. Anyone that's managing lots of people are all facing the same problem. And there were a lot of solutions out there, tech solutions that maybe solve problems for a cafe or for a big HR system, for an IBM or something like that. But the nuance of major events and charitable, lots of volunteers, is that it's quite complex scheduling, and you need to manage thousands of individuals into one day sometimes. And that was a very different way that I guess workforce technology had run in the past, and we kind of built our system specifically for that, but it was only for our own reasons. And that's when we realised, hey, let's see if we can license this. And that was in 2015 that we decided to make Rosterfy as a standalone business and focus on effectively selling white-labelled workforce management technology to clients around the world.
So I think, is the NFL one of those amazing clients?
So we've done the last 3 Super Bowls, and that's...
Hang on, so when you say you've done the last 3 Super Bowls, because there's a lot of people involved in that day, are you telling me that they're using your platform to coordinate those people involved?
Yeah, it's
amazing.
Traditionally, probably about 35,000 volunteer shifts goes into making up a Super Bowl.
How do you make sure that system doesn't crash?
Yeah, it's quite a journey. It's a 12-month journey. They open
really, for one day
in February, and then Rosterfy. And this is the benefit of being a small business growing with a client like that, because we signed them when we were quite early on. given the niche problem that we solved, was that we could grow a business off the back of them in a way.
Yep.
They had the blueprint, the ideas, and really lucky to have people like Andy Newman, who was the Super Bowl at that time, and a good friend from Tough Mudder, to help us understand the problems, basically. For example, they need to screen and background check all these thousands of people. There's probably 10 individual steps across the 12 months that the volunteer recruitment process needs to go through. Why not automate these processes and keep them all in one central solution? And that's what we effectively built out with Super Bowl. And then obviously that same process relates to every other major event and a lot of charities. And so we were lucky enough to have them as a, I guess, major client early on, that we could then help grow our brand off the back of that. And then it also helped build our platform. So we're quite lucky to win that, and still lucky to work with them today.
So this is 2015 when you first started working with Super Bowl, is that right?
No, that was our first year running the business, from June 2015, so 2017, 2018, 2019. So we've done the last
3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So with that in mind now, how would you say that having them as a client and having successfully worked with them has impacted bringing on more clients and also helping with the brand and the profile of the business when it came to raising and sort of taking that next step?
Yeah, in terms of 2 parts. One is growing the brand and the clients. So absolutely, it makes sense off the back of winning the Super Bowl. We're also lucky enough with Austrade to get a spot in the landing pad in San Francisco.
Great.
So for 6-9 months, they put us up there, and that was really at the similar time to our first Super Bowl. So we really took that momentum and ran with it to push into the States off winning a big contract like that.
Yep.
We had a few others like Tough Mudder and a few other major events that were in that space.
Yep.
But we kind of were like, well, here's kind of enough motivation for us. If there was ever a time to jump, it's probably now. And along, I guess, for the startups that are in listing and that sort of thing, and sometimes you don't plan around these things. We never thought we'd be launching in the States. We never thought we'd be in a technology business. But sometimes you just get these pushes and the business takes you where you need to go. But then I guess with that comes its challenges too, that now the market kind of know us a little bit as, oh, you're the ones that work with the Super Bowl, or you're now a really large business. Reality is we only have 18 staff, but they can sometimes compare us to the big ones going, maybe you're too expensive, you can't work with us.
Gotcha.
And so the perception of that can be a challenge when in reality most of our clients are at the smaller end. And so we just, as a business, have learned a lot about creating that story, and we're always trying to improve that. So always challenges, but then the second part of your question was around investment, and that obviously helps having some major brands that you work with, but I guess we haven't really rested on our laurels of just a Super Bowl. We've really taken that to push into London Marathon, Paris Marathon, any other major event around the world, trying to win them so that we can show that we can do so much more, basically. You don't just sort of stop, you don't get one and stop there. You really push off the back of that,
So let me ask also, you mentioned, which is really key for startups listening, the Austrade landing pad facility that's available for Aussie businesses going overseas. Now, you said they put you up for 6 to 9 months. What exactly does that entail from both ends?
It was just great timing for us as a business. And everyone was talking about innovation and wanting to have something to talk about, and so we just happened to be right place, right time.
Do you apply?
Yeah, we applied. So we went through the process, business story. We had some good references from, I guess, ASTN's been a great help for us, Australian Sports Technology Network. So you build up some good references from people like that along the journey that can help push your case. I think we were one of... it might have been 5, might have been 10 companies. My business partner, Bennett, went over. They give you an office space and they support you as much as they can. But the reality is it's still over to you. So all they do really is give you a space to go and work from. And then I'm sure the program's evolved a lot more since we were the first ones really over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was, I remember a lot of people having almost some negative feedback saying, oh, they didn't help me as much as I thought they would. But the reality is it's always, for anyone starting your own business, it's always on you.
Yeah, totally.
The moment you start trying to point the finger or saying, oh, you didn't support me enough, or I thought I was going to get this, you're probably in trouble.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, that's a great facility to know about, because obviously entering a new market like that, it can be quite daunting. Can I ask, did you secure a US client before you considered using the landing pad, or did you decide we want to put this product in a bigger market and then look for the landing pad?
Yeah, it's a great question. The chicken before the egg, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our business has always battled with that. And even today, we look back and go, do we make the right call? Going into the UK, going into the US, going into Dubai, these different places, do you get the clients first? Mm-hmm. Or do you set up your base first, do your research, do it properly? And I guess the way we've always done it, and whether it's the right way or the wrong way, it's the way that we've done it, is that we've always picked up the clients first, and then the back of it. And the reason we've done that is that revenue and clients paying you money is the most important thing in a business. I think a lot of startups sometimes get caught up in the ideal of being a startup founder and starting a business. They forget about the importance of paying bills and cash flow and employing staff to be able to grow sustainably. And so for us, we've needed to prove out that, hey, for example, in London, we signed X, Y, and Z before we got staff on the ground to show that there is a need for what we have. Someone's going to pay us, pay their invoices for it, and that is going to sustain the local team that's there.
Gotcha.
But I have heard of other avenues of putting people on the ground, doing research, doing it so the other way, and it's horses for courses.
Cool. Well, it sounds like the sales element of the business has played a big part in fueling the growth, but also validating the reason for being where you are. And it feels like it's a strong position to be in, because it's sort of a way of earning the right to grow in that market. And it sounds like as a business you've got a good, pretty robust sales function in place, which you head up.
Yeah, correct.
What's been something that's been key to the sales arm being so strong? Because it's a B2B platform,
It is,
so the sales obviously needs to be really strong. What have you put in place that maybe a startup listening could take from this, as to being able to put themselves in a position to have a solid sales strategy for getting their first client and their first customer and paying person?
It's number one is that you need to be the face of it, and you need to be accountable to the client, and to build that reputation and that respect with the client. And then you need to execute off the back of what you've just spoken about. You need to do a great job. You need to go all in on making sure that is successful on that first, second, third, 10th client that you're getting, so that you're building up a groundswell. I think that so many people get caught up in, let's pump out Google ads and they're just going to have all these leads flowing through, and the sexy side of perhaps what you might see on different startup shows and things. But, and this is just from my opinion, right? But that is that you need to really earn your right to and understand what the need is for your business. The more you are working with your first clients that are paying you these invoices, the more you're understanding what the problem is you're solving. And the more then that you will build up a network of happy clients that are happy to share your details around, because there's no better sales strategy than I guess referrals from clients.
Gotcha.
That's the number one. I know that's not the sexy thing that people want to hear about scaling and multiplying, etc. But at the end of the day, if you've got happy clients telling everyone else that you're doing a great job, then you don't need to go out and sell and cold call everyone. When you've got that, I guess, warm leads coming through the door.
Totally agreed. And look, it sounds like getting those first initial sales on and making them super, super happy and engaged is a great way to really validate and test your product properly, so that you can get that critical feedback for a startup, to know what's working, what's not. Because, ideally you want that client to be confident and comfortable enough to actually share with you their candid feedback, and not be polite and dance around it, or just go missing.
Or if you, as well, in the early, and I guess that summary I just gave there is probably very much more for the early startups. When you have that client base, then sure, there are different strategies that we're doing right now that would relate less to an early startup. But the other point about it is that be very easy to employ an account manager, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that is almost the punching bag for the separator between you and the clients.
Yep.
That you still need to feel that pain yourself as a founder.
Uh-huh.
You're the one responsible for this thing. So understand the hurt, all these sorts of things. It's not going to be easy. It's not
Yep.
going to be smooth. But you need to really feel that and be part of that journey yourself so that you can know how to improve moving forward.
Excellent. All right. So I want to ask you, in your opinion, what's maybe some advice that you've been given in the past that you wouldn't give another startup starting on their journey?
It's a good question. There's a lot along our journey that we've received, of course.
We've had people say the obvious, like you gotta raise money to make money, and people have said no, you can do it lean.
Yep.
Others have said you need to have XYZ business partners, a solid team around you, and some have said yes, but some have said no because they've realised they had the skills within, but they didn't have the confidence.
Yep. Well, it's funny. It's very niche to us, but don't do business with family.
Really?
My business partner's my cousin.
There you go.
And our effectively CFO's been my uncle Mick for the whole time, and it's been a great relationship the whole time because you can be honest and not
Touch
worry
wood.
about anything. Yeah, of course. But that's a small niche one very much for us. Another one would be sort of hiring up and getting that investment early, like you touched on. A lot of people along our journey have sort of come to us offering us investment or even to buy us out early. And every time we look back on those across the last really 6-7 years, even with Event Workforce before that, the best decisions we've ever made as a business is saying no to them.
Yep.
Because each year you look back and you go, can you believe we nearly signed off on that investment or bringing this person in? And so just taking every situation and really assessing, going, maybe it sounds good now, but are we going to back ourselves to sort of be better than that in 12 months' time? And that's probably a big thing, is that you can get pushed and lured into different situations as a small startup. You can get in times where cash flow is tight or things, and people try and tell you and push you to go one different way. But everyone's got their own motivations too.
Yep.
Not to say people are actively out there trying to rip you off, but you will know more about your business than anyone else does. And you will know more about where you want to be than anyone else. And so don't always just get lured into the situation where you think that someone else can solve your problems for you. Take accountability for yourself and back yourself more than you back anyone else.
Gotcha. Excellent. So we talked about the Super Bowl as a client. Has there been a bigger milestone for the business to date, would you say?
World Expo is probably the world's largest mass workforce management program. It's much larger than the Olympic Games in terms of size. A couple of million volunteer shifts will be going to our platform. So it's positive, but it's also challenging that as a small business, we've got a humongous contract like that. It's pulling a lot of resource, challenging our core product and pulling us in different ways we didn't think we'd be going in. So in terms of large clients, that's certainly probably larger than the Super Bowl in that sense.
Yeah.
But it's also has its challenges, which is part of growing, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. That's another great client. What's the key to having a successful team? So, we've got solopreneurs that come through the program. We've got people who are a combo of maybe one's finance and one's marketing. We've got some that have got a strategic advisor who's passive but holds a bit of equity. And just mentors. What would you recommend?
Accountability is so key for small startups. You don't ever get yourself to the point where you're thinking someone's doing something and they misunderstood what you actually thought, and you can end up, it always is going to happen, but the more people can be crystal clear on what they're accountable for, and if they don't perform, they understand why not and repercussions of these things. In terms of, in a small business, everything has to work like clockwork. And when there's only 2 or 3 founders, sometimes everyone needs to exactly know what they're doing and be crystal clear on that. So accountability, and I also think just empowering those people. Like, I've seen quite a few founders along the journey bring it all on themselves.
Yep.
I've mentioned a few times today about you're the one that knows the direction of the business, and that can be a real challenge for startup founders, is that knowledge is all in you and you know where you're going. But the biggest challenge for any startup entrepreneur is to bring others along for the journey with you.
Gotcha.
And so bringing others along and empowering them, and I think a big thing we've learned is tell staff it's okay to make mistakes. Without that freedom in terms of their role, they'll forever be asking you questions, and all you'll be doing is hiring staff to be asking you more questions to do their job.
Sounds
and that's
painful.
a real challenge. Yeah. It's not, I mean, not to say we've necessarily gone through that too much, but it's just it's an easy trap to fall into.
Yep.
By thinking you know all the answers. You just need to hire well and let those people do their jobs.
Cool. Awesome. So 2015 this all started. It's 2019 now. It's been a pretty crazy trajectory over 4 and a bit years. How long should a startup give themselves to get traction? And what are some things that are key tells that will give them the indication that, yep, it's happening, you're on the right track, you don't need to pivot, stick with it?
Yeah, I think two things. One is that you need to know your market space. So I would suggest to anyone, if they're going to go into business, that they should understand what they're getting into, at least the market. They should have some networks in that space. On top of that, you need to know that there's a genuine problem you're solving. And then as part of that, not only is it a problem, but they're actually willing to pay money to solve that problem. Because sure, it might be a problem. I can chat to you and say, maybe if I solve this, you go, great, yeah, that sounds cool. I can go away and build that. And then when I come back in 12 months' time to try and sell it to you, your response will be, yeah, it's nice. Yeah, it can solve a bit of a problem, but I can get away with this. And then I've wasted all my time.
Yep.
So from a startup founder perspective, do that research to know the industry and the space you're getting into. And then secondly, and most importantly, understand that people actually pay money for what you're trying to sell to them.
Yep.
Without that, don't ever underestimate the need for cash flow to run a small business.
So in that scenario, is there an exercise or a structure or template a startup could follow to know that they've done that properly? So what I mean by that is, you've got a problem, like we talk about the lean canvas, and we do that as a business model canvas. We do it all the time, and we run people through it time and time again. Is there an exercise that you went to or used that validated your problem and also answered your question around if someone had paid for it? Was it surveying? Was it, continual speaking with prospects? Like, what was the process? So the reason I asked is because it starts when I'm listening and going, oh my God, I want to do that. But is there like one or two things I could go do now that don't seem too daunting that could help me get a bit closer to validating?
Yeah, I think there's no right answer, right? So don't think that there's a silver bullet for this. There was, along our journey, and this is actually quite helpful, is we always had a mentor. So Marcel is a friend of ours, ran a business. When we get to points where we didn't know the answer, we'd try and find out ourselves, and then we'd also bring in someone that had been through that before us.
Yep.
So for startups that are out there, if you need more market research or something, go and speak to someone that's done it, or go and speak to another startup business that's been through that themselves. So go and get that outside information so that you can capture enough information, but you ultimately are the ones making the decisions. It's a really interesting thing along our 9 years of running a business is that we've found that we've always had consultants come in and help us with advice on these sorts of things, like how many clients you need to speak to, how many interviews do you need to have, etc. We've always had that, but we've just captured that information and we're the ones that have made the decisions compared to someone else telling us this is exactly what you need to do, because it's always horses for courses for each different company that you're setting up. But the one thing that doesn't change is the hard work that you need to put in to go and speak to clients.
Gotcha.
Call 50 of them, prospective clients, offer to buy them a coffee, go, hey, I've been speaking to, try and get some landmark ones early so that it's an in.
Yep.
So, hey, I've spoken to London Marathon events, just wondering if I can take 5 minutes of your time.
Yep.
So you have an in, and then once you're in there, ask them a direct question to go, we've heard, and from our research, we've realised that this is a fair problem in businesses like yours.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the case for you guys? Yes, no. Would you pay money for it? What do you think that would be worth to you? Don't be afraid to ask the direct
Hang on,
questions.
that's great. So we've heard this problem exists. Does it exist for you? Would you pay money for it? And how much would you pay for it?
Don't be afraid to ask a question.
That's excellent. So there's 3 clear things that you could factor into your customer survey that could make sure that you get the information you need.
Yep.
And so it's not sugarcoated. That's great. I love that.
And I'm not saying that we did this perfectly. Like, we tried along the journey. In sometimes you hit and you miss. You put out a proposal with a number on it.
Yeah.
And sometimes they come back and go, well, that's way too much. Don't talk to us again. And you get that. So you're going to have a bumpy ride with these things.
Yep.
You're going to call a lot of people that hang up the phone on you. You're going to not get through a lot of receptionists. But all you need is 1 or 2 really key ones, like we did with the Super Bowl or a few others, that is the reason why that person will speak to you.
Great.
Because these are busy people, right? They're people that have the control of spending money in their company. They've got their job to do.
They're having these conversations with other people as well.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that angle because it almost takes it's like the anti-sell. It's like we're not selling anything, we're just surveying and trying to find out and do some market research.
Totally. Yeah.
And it feels like it almost empowers that person to tell you what you want to hear around whether the problem exists, but also give you some other ideas around other problems that might be more pressing.
Totally. And then that's because you can think, hey, this is what my business is going to be. And you speak to 50 potential clients and you realize, hang on, I need to be focusing on this.
Yep.
So don't be, I've met a lot of startup founders along the journey that are very headstrong about going, no, I know this is it. This is the winner.
Yep.
And they've been told time and time again by clients, A, you're charging us too much. That's not going to do that. And B, look, maybe you could adjust it slightly this way. Maybe then I can get some funding from this area. And they say no to that client feedback. At the end of the day, the client's the one that's paying you the money to run your business.
Gotcha.
Bring them on board with your journey and put that effort in. Like I said, the one consistent here is that effort you need to put in to build those relationships as an individual, yourself, put that on yourself so that you can grow from there.
Awesome. Unreal. Okay, so who is your inspiration currently, or someone that you look up to? It can be in your space, it can be business, it can be personal, it can be...
Yeah, there's lots of... along your journey, like I said, when we didn't know answers, we go and find people that had. So we've got lots of different mentors along the way that have helped us with different things. Some really consistent ones, the technology and sports events co-founders that along our journey that are still with us today, that we're good friends with. So, I mean, there's probably too many to name them. But one, everyone listening here would know Gary Vee in terms of an online presence that you should look up. The one he says a lot of crap, to be honest. So there's a lot in there you need to filter out.
I think it's about 90 pieces of content a day.
Yeah, right.
So there's surely a bit of crap in there,
Totally. The consistent thing that he references is do the hard work. And that's what it is. I think I've seen a lot of startup founders going, this is too hard. And brilliant. If you get in the startup world and then you find it's too hard, great. At least you've given it a crack and good on you. And anyone trying to employ you moving forward, if I'm ever employing someone, the first question I'm asking them is, what's sort of the biggest mistake you've made? Or what have you stuffed up recently? You need to experience the highs and lows of the journey. And if that means that you stuff up one startup and try again, you'll learn something from it. Gotcha. And do it while you're young, while you don't have the mortgage or the baby like I now do, you can afford to take risks. It's the best thing you can possibly do.
Sounds like yours has taken you all around the world.
Yeah, it hasn't been easy. It's certainly a roller coaster. It's never.
So the Super Bowl. Would you have gone to the Super Bowl?
So we've been to a Super Bowl. We went to Houston for the first one. Didn't get to go. We were working.
Was it a Pats win?
It was. Yeah, Pats.
Most of them have been, haven't they?
Correct. Yeah, during our time, that's for sure. Yeah.
Oh, mate, awesome.
But we might go next year. We'll see.
Very nice, cool. All right, we'll put me down for a +1.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
You and everyone else.
So tell me, right, this is cool for startups listening. What's one thing that you believed maybe in the early days to be true that ended up being incorrect? So this could also be like an assumption you had that turned out to be false.
Probably that you needed to have offices in all these places. So
Yeah,
in
right.
particular in the US, we always thought that they wouldn't deal with an Australian company, which is kind of true. They're very American-centric. They don't really care about anything in Australia. But I think if you just turn up and do it yourself and back yourself, then nothing's going to stop you, really. I think we've kind of proved that out a lot. People are always like, no, you need offices and locations in these spots. But with the technology system, you can always sort of you get away with it in a way.
Yep, beautiful. Yep. So is there a mantra, without sounding too airy-fairy, is there a mantra or some kind of rule or guide that you live or you operate your business by? I know you talked about hiring well and allowing employees and staff to make mistakes. But maybe you could give me an idea of what you used as a bit of a mantra or a guide for when you were raising recently. So you've obviously, we haven't talked about that actually, but it's a big achievement. You maybe talk to us about the investment that you recently raised, this series of raising, and then what led you to choosing who you went with, because I'm sure you could raise money in many different ways, but there'd be people who'd be more suitable or better matched to your values as a business than others. But is there something that helps you make that decision? Or?
Well, the first part in a mantra would just probably be ownership. Just be accountable to yourself in terms of if something's going wrong, it's your business, own it. And don't be afraid to talk to your staff about it too. Put your hand up. If you show that you've been accountable to something and maybe you've stuffed it up, then it shows them that they can be as well. So don't be afraid to sort of publicly recognise those things, because if you any startup, you're making mistakes all the time. So you don't want staff to sit there at risk of sending an email that they might get a bad response from. You want people to be pushing the whole time. So that's ownership is a big one, and accountability. So that's that. But I guess to the investment was a question more around how do we find them, or
yeah, well, it sounds like when you get to a tipping point like you would have, and you had real momentum, and the business had good traction, you may have even been in a position where I'm sure you can talk to this, where you had a couple of investment options to consider, and it might have come down more so to who's a better fit.
So it was probably a 9 to 12 month journey for us, to be honest. So it went. We probably got down the pathway with like 3 or 4, and it got down to almost contract time with a couple of them. And we realised that they weren't the right fit for us. And all the contracts that you can talk the talk and say that they're going to be nice and look after you, etc. But then when the contract represents a different thing, then you're starting off on the wrong foot. So I don't know if that's even advice to investors out there to follow through on what you talk about, but that's pretty consistent, I would imagine.
Read the contract.
Everyone's in it for their own reasons, right?
And
you just want to find them out early in the piece to go, here's almost a non-negotiables. Does that rule you out? If it does, shake hands and move on. If it doesn't, then sure, let's continue on.
Gotcha.
And the UK guys was a personality match for us. We got along really well with them and trusted them, and they'd invested in a friend's company so that we had a reference point, that it wasn't just like a big VC, that we were just going to be one of their numbers. We didn't want that. We wanted someone that they've only invested in a couple of companies, and also the guy he's close to a billionaire, the guy that's effectively invested in us, and he's proven 15 times that he's scaled a business from 0 to X.
Wow. 10
to 50.
Is that a known person we can talk about, or is that?
No, it's probably someone we'll keep to ourselves. Andy, he's a great guy.
Does he own an airline?
No, he doesn't own an airline. No.
Okay, so there's 3 founders. There's clients all over the world. You've recently brought on a partner and someone who's helped you raise in the UK. You're basing yourself in Geelong, a regional centre. How important is having a facility like Runway, for example, as an incubator, co-working space and collaborative environment for entrepreneurs, to helping support someone like you who's more scaled, given that you're going to be operating a global business from a regional centre?
It's so important to have. It's just a bounce off, to be quite honest. Probably less about scale and these sorts of things, more about just sharing stories with other co-founders that are going through the same journey as you. And
So
then
do you
staying in
operate
touch
from
with them.
home?
For me, look, I work from the NAB offices.
Yep.
Do business banking with them, and then I'll work from NAB a little bit. But the reality is I'm travelling up to Melbourne 3-4 times a week. So doing what I can down in Geelong while I can and while I need to be.
For an early stage startup, would you recommend an environment like Runway and Incubator where they can access other like-minded people at that early stage?
Big time, yeah. And it's such a great program for Geelong and regional areas, Runway, just to connect those people together. You may not even be, you might be manufacturing and one might be SaaS, but the reality is you're going through the same problems and trying to attract clients, keep staff, hire staff, these sorts of things. And it's, when I look back now, the best relationships we have are with those other tech co-founders that we met along the journey. And you learn a lot from bad ones too.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see a lot of startups along your journey, and you learn a lot of good things, and you learn a lot of things that you don't want to do.
Beautiful.
So just putting all those people in the same room, bounce off each other, is brilliant.
Final question. What would you tell yourself 5 years ago at the beginning of your journey if you had the benefit of hindsight? Do it. Definitely do it.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, sometimes I ask that question if I should. I think we've been pretty good at it the whole time, but just have fun. You
seem like you're in an industry, in a space where that's a bit easier. It's a B2B product, but it's in the event space. So do you find yourself participating and getting involved in your clients' events?
Yeah, and across our journey, we've always tried to be conscious of that and to do that. As you get larger and more responsibility, the business, it's harder to do so. But the reality is, being a startup founder is hard work. It's harder than you would it's much easier to go and get a job somewhere else, work 9 to 5, probably earn similar money. Maybe there's a payout at the end for a founder, but who knows? Maybe not. So you've got to try and enjoy the benefits of being a founder and running your own business. So just don't forget those things and enjoy it. Just try and have fun. You don't run your own business to have a crap time.
This is true.
So and it's hard. It's really hard. So enjoy the good times as well. And I think that's really important.
Now, if people want to find out more about Rosterfy, how do they do that?
Yeah, just chuck it in Google, I guess. Like most
so
places.
it's Rosterfy.
Yeah, that's
.com.
Yeah, and just feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn as well, I think.
So people want to reach out to you for a bit of mentoring or just advice.
Yeah, I'm sure it might be in the notes or whatever it is in terms of Shannan Gove, but
we'll
just find me on LinkedIn and feel free to shoot me a message. Always happy to just jump on a call with people going through the journey, because I know that I've lent on a lot of people that have been before us, and I think it's part of our process to help those. So more than happy to jump on a call anytime.
Well, Shannan Gove, international entrepreneur, great to have you back in G-Town.
Thanks, mate.
And on the show, and looking forward to collaborating with you further and sharing your story with our audience. Very inspiring, mate. Thank you for your time.